What's up, y'all? Welcome back to my channel. I'm the Young and Free Retiree. You know, your favorite retiree on social media. Now, before we jump into today's topic and content, I need y'all to hit that like and subscribe button for your boy. So that way, this content can be shared with other like-minded people and other people that just want to sit around and enjoy the content. Isn't it interesting how we are so comfortable looking at other people's finances, but when it comes to revealing our own finances, we're not as transparent? People become very uncomfortable when you talk about finances. And you know, one of those things about finances that make people uncomfortable? Credit card debt. America is dealing with over $1.2 trillion in credit card debt. That's mind-blowing. And I know a lot of people are going to say, well, that's just young people out there doing that. No, it's across the board. Young, old, in between, single, married, people in situationships, all of that. So you can't just limit it to one section of people, one group of people. So today, let's take a look at how much credit card debt people are in and how they're managing it. What do you think? Do you think they're going to manage it in a healthy way? Probably not. Me either. But let's get into the videos.
$1,000 in credit card debt. 40. So let's talk about it. First of all, that is a statement that I thought I would be taking to my grave. I never thought I would tell another soul. And in fact, until today, I have never told another soul about my struggles with credit card debt because this is not the beginning. If we rewind all the way back to about 19 or 20-year-old Lana, that is when my journey with credit card debt began. I was 19 years old and I was dating a man who was 31, and he did not support me or help me financially in any way, and I was trying to live his lifestyle off my minimum wage job, and I was living outside my means, to be quite frank. I got myself into credit card debt. I stayed in credit card debt until I was about 21, at which point I was able to pay it off over the course of just like really cutting back and being very diligent about making as many extra payments as I could to my debt. And then I got out of it and I was like, oh my gosh, that's the most freeing thing. I'm never doing that again. And then I did. And then I paid that debt off. And you know what? I repeated the cycle again. I'm in my third cycle of credit card debt. And at this point, my threshold has just gotten so big. Your threshold for debt increases with time, right? It's just like your threshold for anything else that creates stress in your life. Over time, your body has to adapt to the current conditions. So your threshold for what it can hold expands. So right now, the number 40 probably feels staggering to some of you, but it's not a number that I feel fear around. So why am I sharing this with all of you? Well, because this debt that I've carried on and off for almost all of my 20s has cultivated so much shame for me. So much shame. I directly had my self-worth tied up into my financial picture. And so I thought that because of the fact that I had this debt, I was not worthy. I was not worthy. And as I've been doing a deep dive into my subconscious mind, just really into my psyche in general over the last couple of years, I have looked at everything very, very, very honestly. But money's been the one thing that I've been avoiding. The one thing that I've been avoiding. And over the last month, I have gotten to a place where I cannot avoid it anymore because I am in a very unique situation when it comes to my finances, and I've been doing all of this subconscious work. And as I sat in meditation yesterday, this just came up out of nowhere that I need to talk about it. I need to talk about it. So I first started by having conversations with my closest girlfriends because they didn't even know. And after I had spoken to them, I felt the shame just dissipating and leaving my body. And I thought, I'm going to share it with the world. I think I've always known that I was eventually going to share it with the world. I just wasn't feeling ready. And so I'm sharing this with you because I know that so many of us struggle with debt. I know so many of us are in debt right now. And I need you to remember that money is not moral. You are not worthy or unworthy depending on your financial situation. The more that we talk about things, the less that shame can breed, the less that shame can exist. And I'm just simply to a point where I'm done feeling shame about this. I'm done. And so if I don't feel shame about it, why not share it with you? Because if I can help one person feel less alone on their journey, it's worth it for me. And I don't really care what the comments are going to say, because if I don't feel shame about it, you can't make me feel shame about it. So moving forward, okay, now that we've got 40 grand, what's the plan? the plan is to give it to God, basically. I am in a full surrender right now with my finances, and I just trust so deeply that I had to get to this level. I had to go to these depths on my journey with money for me to fully untangle my relationship with money. Because if you go all the way back to my childhood, I felt fear and scarcity around money before I even conceptually understood what it was. So as I entered adulthood, I had subconscious beliefs that there wasn't enough money, that money equated to my worth, scarcity, lack. Like I had very, very, very deep-rooted fear patterns around money. So even though I entered adulthood and I was able to manage my own finances, and I consciously knew the right way to manage my finances. I worked in finance for 10 years. I consciously knew the right decisions to make. I would not make those because my subconscious mind was running the show, not my conscious mind. I was operating from my subconscious beliefs that there isn't enough, fear, scarcity, lack, instability. So a lot of times, even when I had money in my checking account, I would spend on a credit card, because I needed to hoard like a little squirrel every dollar that I had in my bank account, because it may never come back and there isn't enough. And what I'm learning through this process is why I repeated those patterns isn't because I have no willpower, I'm weak, I'm unintelligent, or any of those things, I'm unworthy. It's because my subconscious mind was running the show. I was allowing my limiting beliefs to run the show. And this could be applied to any other area of our life. So what I'm doing forward is changing my identity, changing my subconscious beliefs, rewiring my subconscious mind to believe that pleasure and abundance and prosperity are safe. Not only safe, they are my birthright, that I am capable of holding it, that I'm not only capable of holding it, that it is on its way to me right here, right now, that I am an abundant human being. I am releasing the shame around money in general, because money is not moral. We were not born into this life knowing what money is. Money is something we created. It didn't exist when humans first evolved. We created it. It is not moral. It is not moral. If you have more questions about kind of how this all transpired, more than happy to talk about it. I'm happy to start a conversation about this. Most of this debt, this 40 number, I've been carrying around for a little.
First of all, let me say, I don't care who you are. Well, I know $40,000 of debt, that is appalling to me. Like, to me, if I had $40,000 worth of debt, uh, I'm not going to say I'd be worried, but it would definitely be a priority. And one thing I probably definitely would not do, as much as I love my God and Savior, I'm not just going to hand it over to him and let him handle it. Why would I? I made that debt. It's my responsibility to take care of it. And one thing that stands out about this young lady's video and her entire journey that it seems like she's going on is that she's a reflection of many, many Americans out there. Many people that are dealing with debt and money in general. Their relationship is fractured in nature. Typically, shame comes with that. And it's something that really we shouldn't have to endure as individuals that God put us here on this earth. But when you have a severed relationship, especially with money, you have a tendency to do things that you probably shouldn't do with it. And in this lady's case, being with a man, trying to live up to his standards. And this, once again, it's the same thing we do in every day and day. Many Americans do it day in and day out. They're trying to keep up with the Joneses. They're trying to, go out to eat and have a good time with friends and family when they know they really ain't even got it like that. They broke. It's been a week since payday. And not even saying that being broke is a bad. Sometimes you have to just tell yourself, I'm broke. I can't do it. You have to be honest with people and be honest with yourself. Like, I can't go out there and indulge in those activities with people. And 9 times out of 10, they probably ain't got it like that either. They broke too. And I applaud this young lady too for the journey that she was on, because it seemed like she did a lot of deep self-reflection, and which is needed in order to heal and repair any relationship. And with money, you have to have a healthy relationship with it, because nobody did teach us when we came here on this earth, or we were put here, on how to handle, manage, and understand money. They definitely don't teach it in schools, which it seems like some schools are starting to do that, but it needs to be a nationwide type thing. Going back to her point, yeah, nobody teaches us that. And even though it's the responsibility of our parents and those around us, as you get older, it becomes your responsibility to learn. It's your responsibility to go on Google. It's your responsibility to look at YouTube. It's your responsibility to read books. You can't be 30 and 40 years old blaming your parents for not teaching you about money, and you're in, $50,000 worth of debt, $10,000 worth of debt, even $5,000 worth of debt. You have to take accountability for that and realize, like, okay, I'm older now. It falls on my shoulders to learn and self-educate.
What was the last shiny besides this vacation you guys just went on? What was the last shiny? I want to hear how this happened.
I mean, I got Botox.
Where?
At the spa. It's like $600 or $800.
Where's the Botox?
What do you mean where?
Where is it in your body?
Oh, my forehead.
Okay, so you're avoiding the permanent lines.
Yes.
Okay. How much was the shiny Botox?
It was $600.
Who cares if you get lines? Dude's already starting to get gray.
No, it's not kind of. It's gray.
Oh, wow.
It is a lot of gray.
Oh, it's infected. Okay.
But it's not just like Botox. She'll do...
I think it's time to embrace. The dude's already growing old. You don't want to look like you're 20 when he's just like...
It's not just Botox. We don't do our own hair.
No,
We
he
don't
asked
make
you.
our own hair.
No, stop. He asked you what was your
Stop.
most expensive purchase.
Huh?
This
No.
past
No.
month.
Okay,
Yeah.
so the Botox was the last shiny. Okay.
That I had. but
Okay.
what about
Okay.
him?
just saying there's
I
more.
want to. Whoa. I just want to figure out the situation around that because I just want to learn kind of what your life looked like around that. One that terrifies me.
This is what happens when finances are not talked about in relationships. It creates a division. You have to talk about your finances, especially credit card debt. And it appears from that last clip, which came from Caleb Hammer, which is one of the guys I enjoy watching his videos. That clip highlights why it's so important that you must talk about your finances in a relationship because it starts to create a divide. And as you can see, her husband or her boyfriend or whoever he was completely like, you can tell he was upset with her. From the time when Caleb asked her the question about where did she get the Botox, he was over in the corner, if you look back at it, just shaking his head the entire time. In utter disappointment and disagreements with it. The gentleman, they look like a young couple, right? But until he took that hat off, then my man, that hat, man, it added some years to him. And I can see, and I would probably have that many grades too if I ever had to deal with someone like that in my life that was so financially irresponsible with money. And thankfully, I'm blessed that I don't have that in life. I'm blessed to have someone that is highly mindful of finances. And I love that. And I thank God every day for that. But talk about your finances in a relationship. In a relationship, you have to be comfortable having uncomfortable relationships. That's how you grow. You have to be able to do it. If you can't do that, you're going to keep running into the same problems over and over and over, especially when it comes to money. Don't just talk about it. Do something about it. Put some action to it.
I'm 31, I'm single, I live alone, and I have $29,445 in credit card debt. I've honestly never said that aloud before, and I'd be lying if I didn't think it was a little embarrassing and also really shameful. 2 credit cards, one with Capital One, one with Bank of America. Capital One has the lower balance, so my goal is to make an additional $200 payment a month to Capital One, and then snowball that with the Bank of America one. If all goes to plan and I continue making the additional $200 payments a month, I can have both credit cards paid off by December 2027. I know that's almost 3 years away, and who knows, maybe I will pick up some extra income or figure out a way to pay more towards my debt, but as of right now, $200 is what I can afford. I'm going to pay off this debt by 2027, no ifs, ands, or buts. Been carrying this debt around, and it's honestly been a huge toll. Barely making the minimum payments, but enough is enough. I need to get this under control. It's honestly consuming my life. No one but to blame but me, but I'm ready to pay this off and be debt-free, well, with credit cards.
First of all, let me applaud this young lady for taking it upon herself to do something about her debt. I can't knock that whatsoever. Even though she has a high amount of credit card debt, you got to be able to applaud someone when they can realize it, acknowledge it, and put some action to it and do something about it. Now, granted, she's only putting out about $200 a month or how much ever she said, but it's better than zero. And sometimes that's what it's going to take. It's going to take you making small payments, trying to get it down. First step that you have to take, you have to acknowledge that you have a problem, just like with anything else, just like with alcoholism, just like with any other addictions you have to acknowledge and admit to yourself, I have a problem. And once you admit it and you hear that, then 9 times out of 10, most people take action to it. And so, like I said, I applaud her for taking action to it and trying to do something about it. So that way, in the years down the road, you can look back and say, man, I'm glad I took that first step. You have to take that first step and acknowledge that you have an issue. Because I know I'm, 20 grand. Yeah, I need that paid off ASAP.
That I start to make a dent in that. I'm bringing TikTok with. I have $16,991.57 in credit card debt, and 2025 is the year that I start to make a dent in that. I'm bringing TikTok with me because I'm using TikTok to hold myself accountable and track my journey. I am starting with the card with the highest balance of $5,777 and some change because that is the card with the highest minimum payment. The minimum payment on that card is $191, and that is the hardest minimum payment to keep up with month to month. Tomorrow, I will be making a $400 payment on this card. Now, this is not one of those journeys where I'm going to be making hundreds or even thousands of dollars progress at a time all the time because I don't make enough to do that. I'm going to use my Opportune Savings app to help me. I do have a credit card fund on there, so every month I will cash that out and make that payment towards that high balance card. It's Home Depot, by the way. I will also use any money that I make off of TikTok to help pay down these balances. And I don't make a lot of money on TikTok. I make a few dollars here and there. I did make $200 last month off of one video that I posted from the creator fund. If you can relate to this, if you are also in what seems like a ton of credit card debt and you're struggling to pull yourself out, feel free to follow along and see how I managed to do it and how it works for me. Maybe it could work for you too. I'm not following anybody's certain method. I'm just doing what will help me month to month. And I'll try to update however often, maybe once a month. Anyway, thanks for watching all the way through.
So it sounds like she's doing a tweaked version of the debt avalanche method. And I say a tweaked version of it because what it is, avalanche method, is when you take the highest interest. And she's doing the one with the highest balance. I would suggest and encourage her, like, anytime you're dealing with debt, to go the route of doing the debt avalanche method, the payment method. And I know Dave Ramsey out there, he suggests doing the debt snowball. To some degree, I can see why that's something that many Americans or many people in debt should do, prioritize over the avalanche method, because one of the beautiful things about the debt snowball method is it gives you a psychological win. If you pay off that first small balance, it makes you feel encouraged, inspired, like you've hit one of your smaller milestones or goals. So it almost gives you instant gratification and satisfaction when it comes to paying off bills, because it fills you with that encouragement and enthusiasm to move forward to the next one and knock that out as well. So I kind of understand why that's something that should be highly encouraged to most Americans, because we need that. It's like a dopamine hit that we get whenever we make our purchases. So the same thing needs to happen also when we're paying off our balances as well. But me personally, if I was in that situation, I'm going debt avalanche, because the highest interest rate is the one that's concerning to me. I want to knock that out quick and fast and as in a hurry, because that's the one that's going to accumulate the most interest over time. So you knock that one out, then you move down to the next one, whichever the highest one is after that. And sometimes it doesn't give you that instant gratification, because it might take you a little bit longer, especially if you have a higher balance associated with that higher interest rate. So it could take you a little bit longer to get that hit that you need, but at the same time though, it's gonna save you money. So it's more of a financial win when it comes to that. The debt snowball is more like a psychological win. And for the debt avalanche is more of a financial win. But man, whoo! Well, this debt, man, I don't know if I can make it, boy, through these videos. You got me over here sweating just watching about people being in debt. And don't get me wrong, as someone who's currently retired, that was one thing that I always centered my life around, is making sure I managed my the credit card debt. Because me personally, I use credit cards for everything. Everything. When I say everything, I mean everything. From underwear purchases to going out, taking Ubers, to buying trips, going on my monthly cruises, from, even sending Paying tithes, I pay that with credit cards. I use credit cards for everything because I want my points and everything. And I understand now why Dave Ramsey doesn't encourage people to use credit cards, because before, back when I started, being so financially focused, which was like in my late 20s and early 30s, that would always conflict with me. Like, why does he encourage everybody should use credit cards? But I realized not everyone can manage credit cards. And most people are highly irresponsible when it comes to credit cards. So for that reason, I understand why Dave Ramsey and support that not everyone should not use credit cards, because credit cards can be used for good and they can be used for bad. And 9 times out of 10, most people use them to supplement their day-to-day lifestyle creep and pay for things that they don't have the money to pay for and can't afford. So I get that and understand it. So it makes a lot of sense to me now. But me personally, I enjoy using credit cards. I will and always. Credit cards are great if you have self-control. That's the one thing that you must make sure that you have. Self-control. If you don't have self-control, you lack discipline, don't get a credit card. Do not. I repeat, do not.
So, my husband and I are $60,000 in debt. Okay. Part of the problem. You are. Let me explain how we got here. In June of 2022, we had a good amount of savings and decided that our home that we've been living in for a couple years just needed some maintenance and some upgrades. You can see behind me, we live in like a very normal house, but there were some things like on the outside where our stucco was falling off, so we needed to have that repaired. We had our house painted, we upgraded our bathroom a little bit, and also decided to pay off my husband's private student loan because the interest is not great. And so we had plenty of savings and we decided to just drain those bad boys. We both had really stable jobs. We would be able to squirrel away some money over time and build back up our savings again. 2 weeks later, unexpectedly, I was laid off from my job. And I'm the breadwinner of our household, so it did not go well. I was unemployed for about 7 months. Thank goodness I had social media to keep us afloat for a little bit, but here's the deal. We had to put a lot of stuff on credit card to be able to keep ourselves afloat. So anything that could go on a credit card went on a credit card. And that allowed my husband's income to pay for our mortgage, our car payments, our daycare, things like that. But everything else went on a credit card. We cut back as much as we could, but there's still a lot of expenses. We finally decided to do a debt consolidation loan, and it's about $65,000. And we're gonna try and pay it off. We did a 5-year loan plan, but we're gonna try and pay it off in the next 2 years if I can finally get that OnlyFans account going. I'm just kidding, I'm not gonna do OnlyFans, but that's our goal. If our kids gets out of daycare this year, we've spent $36,000 a year on daycare. So one of them graduates this year, the other one goes to VPK, so that'll save us a little bit of money. Our hopes are that we're able to put a lot of what we were already paying for daycare towards this loan and get it paid off sooner than planned. But your girl loves to shop, so I'm gonna have to do some shit to keep myself accountable to this. So I'm coming on the internet and telling you what my deepest, darkest secret.
I knew it. How can you tell the dog you're part of the problem? No. She needs to be looking in the mirror and telling herself, I'm the problem. Especially as someone who admits that they have a shopping problem. I can only imagine how much money she's probably spent on shopping. Useless shopping, which we all have a tendency to do. Typically, people go out and splurge on things. It just amazes me sometimes the amount of people's inability to take responsibility for their own mismanagement of their funds. Because it sounds like this young lady, like, is somebody who was able to almost be laid off for X amount of months and still survive. And she was the breadwinner. Like, that's a blessing. Most people, I'm sure in America, wouldn't survive after a month if they were laid off and they were the breadwinners. And if they were, they would probably be resolved to creating them OF accounts real quick. So whatever you do, make sure that you try not to pull from your emergency fund, because you never know. Especially in this economy, you could be laid off at the drop of a hat. You can think you've been there for 10 to 20 years and being loyal to this company. Look here, them companies don't owe you any loyalty whatsoever. Their number one goal is to make profit. And especially if they're a public company that's listed on the stock market, they don't owe you anything. Nothing. They owe their investors. That's their responsibility. That's who they answer to. Nobody's asking those questions in those meetings like, hey, why did Susie get laid off? Even though she's been working here for 10 to 20 years. They don't care. People are not concerned about that. So make sure you're set up to take care of you and yours and your family. Make sure you have your emergency account. Most Americans don't. 60% of Americans don't even have more than $500 in a savings account. That is sad and pathetic. That is so sad. So make sure if you have something established, either get started and set up a 3 to 6 month emergency fund. I would strongly encourage a 12-month, but start out and get that dopamine hit. Go ahead and go the 3 to 6 months. I try to avoid tapping into it because I know many people always have that tendency. Well, I'm just pull a little bit out of here for now to go take this trip or this vacation, or I'm gonna go take some money out to go upgrade the house. If that's your only pool of money as your emergency fund, don't do that because we all know what happens. As soon as you have some money or you pull from it or you start to deplete the amount, then what ends up happening? That car starts making that little weird noise. Something just started leaking in the house. Little Susie needs some kind of schooling or some additional program or something she wants to go through summer school. It just seems like stuff starts to happen. So make sure you have money set aside. To 3 to 6 months, build it up. Start following Dave Ramsey's baby step program. And in that, there's one of the steps which require you to put $1,000 away or a certain amount of money in your emergency fund. It's been a while since I did the baby steps. I don't remember them. But I encourage everyone to do them because for the majority of Americans, they work out. They are absolutely, they help correct you on your financial journey and especially to align you so that you can prepare yourself for retirement. And I think that's one of the things that really contributed to me being in the position I am right now, being retired, is that I never had to dip into my emergency fund. And not saying that I haven't encountered any financial trials or tribulations because I have. I just always had additional pots of money to pull from. Did I have a rich family growing up? No, not at all. It was 6 of us, all raised under one roof with a single mom. So I had to pull myself up and through the blessings of God and surrounding me with other people to help educate me and give me the willingness to try to self-educate myself. That would help lead me to this point where I'm at in my life now, where I'm of the age that I am. Still, I think only like 2 gray hairs, one right here. I call it my silver lining. It's somewhere down there. But I'm retired and comfortable, financially comfortable, stable. Never had to tap into my IRA. Never had to tap into my TSP. Never had to tap in, which is TSP is my my equivalent to a 401k because I did come up through the military and did 20 years. Thank me for my service. No. But I'm just so thankful and blessed, and I think that's the reason why it fills me with so much happiness and joy every day that I wake up. Always remember, put God first and live below your means today so later in life you can live beyond your means. I'm out.